Back now on The Pulse, looking at all things people, power, and politics, live at 7:30. Here to talk about the president's visit to Detroit, City Council member Mary Waters and Troy Mayor Ethan Baker. Good to see you both. Thanks for joining us here tonight on The Pulse. It's good to have you two here at 7:30 live. The show does re-air at 11:30 p.m., by the way, but we're glad you're with us. All right, a lot to unpack. This president said that things are better today than they were a year ago when it comes to our economy. Detroit is better off economically. The big three are doing better than a year ago, and it's because of President Trump's policies. Councilwoman Mary Waters, what do you think?
Well, I can certainly say that the city of Detroit is not doing better, not yet anyway. And as far as inflation, yes, okay, but when you go to the grocery store, the prices are still very, very high. I will say that you're doing better. We're doing better at the gas pumps, and that's for sure, right here in the city of Detroit.
But when you had under President Biden years ago close to a 9% inflation rate, and we're down closer to 3%, and it's kind of starting to fall right now, wouldn't you say that's a success story?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's some improvement for sure. I'm not denying that. But I have to go on basic things, basic needs that people have. And guess what? When they go to the grocery store, they are not seeing the changes there.
President Trump boasted of this economy doing better. He talked on many instances, for one example, about how he's making sure that big investors can't buy up swaths of homes in towns like Troy and Detroit. And then sell them for higher prices, making housing more affordable. Credit card, interest rate caps. Is President Trump getting this right, Mayor Ethan Baker?
I think those are all things that people will feel and notice, and that is important. That plays to what the councilwoman just said about people recognizing or feeling those prices coming down. Expensive grocery bills, expensive gas pump, that stuff is what people really do notice almost more than anything, because people, they fill up their gas tank every week, but they don't necessarily buy a new car every week, right? So the things you notice are the gas and the groceries. The things he's doing, or that he's attempting to do as far as restricting those interest rates at 10% for credit cards, that's a big deal. That could have a big effect on people's monthly bills, and I'd like to see that go into effect. And the housing as well. That is going to be something that continues to plague this country. I mean, the thing is, we all want affordable housing. We want people to be able to move into our cities and afford a good quality house. But you also don't want the prices that they're at now to plummet and create a huge panic in the industry. So it is a balancing act.
Councilwoman, your thoughts on the housing initiative?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, given it's one of my passions.
I know it is.
Absolutely one of my passions. And the fact that you can't have big companies, big developers come in and purchase a whole bundle of housing, now I do like that.
Does it surprise you that a Republican president is the one who decided to try to scrap that so investors don't do that?
Well, I'm so glad he did. I mean, I really, really am. And I hope that we can follow through on that and make sure that those things happen. Now, I would love to see the 10% cap for 1 year on the credit cards as well. I would love to see that. But you have people like Chase and Chase Bank and some of the others that are pushing back. They say it will really hurt them a great deal. But I'm loving the president for this housing piece.
I want to ask you about the Venezuela situation and the oil situation. In your mind, did the president make a good move by removing Maduro? And is the world and America safer because of that?
I believe that the people in Venezuela feel exactly that way. He was a bad guy. He needed to be removed. But we still, what are we going to do about the people there in Venezuela? What are we going to do about the heavy, dirty oil that's there? We don't have the money to go down there and make sure that that oil is refined. The oil companies are not really interested in that either. But stabilization is needed in Venezuela.
One place we didn't see stabilization was in Iraq and in Libya. After President Obama and then in Libya and then in Iraq, President Bush came in. It was President Trump himself running in 2015 who was quoted as saying that Libya and Iraq would be better off had we not had our hands on it. Do you believe that he has a good plan when it comes to Venezuela, Mayor Baker?
Well, I think he better. I think he's got to better have good people working on it, because the what next is always the hard part in Libya and Iraq and in Venezuela if you're not careful. So I think that I'm hopeful that there are some plans to go ahead and go in there and take care of things and not let it happen what happened in the previous wars.
They don't have a plan.
Well, you know, but they've got to be doing something. And, you know, perhaps Venezuela is different than Iraq or Libya. It's geographically different right there, which makes things a little bit different.
Well, it's part of our hemisphere, and we have more, perhaps, proximity, and because of that, more effective.
But he is a president who has run against, you know, nation building and against that whole, you know, standpoint. And it is interesting to see. I don't want to call it a flip-flop, because I don't think it is. There's a reason he definitely did what he did. But it is an interesting change.
Let's talk about this gubernatorial gubernatorial race happening here. Garland Gilchrist dropping out of the governor's race, entering the Secretary of State race. What do you think, Councilwoman? Good move?
Well, yes, for him. I mean, in particular,
is that good for Michigan not to have a, an African American viable candidate in that spot?
Well, if you go in, I'm not so sure how viable he is, to tell you the truth. He's never won anything. He's never been elected to office. That's why he wasn't a viable candidate. He could not find a pathway for their election. He just could not find one.
Now, when you look at the Democrats, you have not so crowded of a race with the two main candidates being Jocelyn Benson and Sheriff Swanson. Do you see Swanson battling this out with Benson?
I do not. I think Jocelyn Benson is going to take the nomination handedly. I really do. Now, what happens in November becomes a different story.
Yeah. In the gubernatorial race for the Republicans, who do you see arising in the primary?
Obviously, John James continues to be the front runner that everybody talks about, although I don't see him campaigning as much as the others, certainly. Maybe he doesn't need to. But, I think Tom Leonard he's a quality guy. I think Eric Nesbitt seems to be out there campaigning with some good name recognition. Mike Cox is somebody who, 10, 15 years ago now was somebody that, people knew a lot better in the state. I don't know that he still carries that forward, but he is raising a ton of money. So there's viable Republican candidates.
What about the Duggan factor? How does that factor into all of this as people get closer to the election?
Yeah, I think that you see all the polls consistently keep coming out every day like, oh, more and more people are identifying as independents. I still don't know if that translates to a vote for Mike Duggan. There was a poll I just saw released a little bit ago from another network that showed, Jocelyn Benson and John James essentially tied, but Duggan's getting, 25, 26% of the vote, I think, in that poll. And, that's starting to have a factor. And I hear up north, he's starting to resonate a little bit with people.
Councilwoman, he was told early on when he was running for mayor, you'll remember, that you have no pathway to become the mayor. He was a write-in candidate and became a 12-year mayor.
That is absolutely correct. And the thing about it is that he does have a pathway to becoming governor. His numbers can only continue to move up. And as people hear more and more from Mike Duggan throughout this state, I'm telling you, do not underestimate the guy.
Are you worried about ICE agents coming into the metro area, into big cities like Detroit or smaller cities and mid-sized cities in America? Councilwoman.
Well, absolutely, especially in light of what happened in Minneapolis. That was horrible, to shoot that lady in the face like that. That is not right. But you know what? I expect the Attorney General there in Minnesota to prosecute them, because you were essentially breaking state law.
You're a lawyer, Ethan Baker. The Supremacy Clause, which says that the feds can essentially say, hey, states, you don't have jurisdiction over our federal case. Do you think that would come into effect here?
No, I think it's always an issue when we face our federal agents. I mean, we face it in the city of Troy. We've got our police department, who's a quality, wonderful police department, who has very little ability to stop federal agents from coming in and doing what they're going to do at the federal level for us. Do I worry about it? Of course. I think about it all the time. I worry about the demonization of everybody on both sides at this point. I think that's causing more harm.
The demonization of protesters, the demonization of ICE agents,
all of the above,
that, right?
We've now made it the quickest
we want to be able to keep people safe in our communities.
Right.
And we don't want ICE just running around rampant and creating their own laws as they go. Work with our police officers, our local police officers. If we have a detainee that ICE wants, then go to our local police department and say, here's a detainee, and do it the right way with a warrant.
A Democrat and a Republican who can sit at the same table and have a civil discussion. Not something you see on your phone on social media, but it's happening on the Pulse every night. We think Mayor Ethan Baker and Mary Waters, they'll be yelling at each other in the lobby before they leave.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Not going to happen.
No, I'm just joking. We're taking a look at some of the other big stories of the day next on the Pulse, including how the Justice Department is breaking precedents in the investigation into that Minnesota woman being shot and killed by an ICE officer. This is the Pulse on Fox 2.